Welcome on a Thursday night here from Mexico City. Nayib Moran talking in this the Mexican Soccer Show Express. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the list of Juan Carlos Osorio's first list of 2016. Well, the real one, because the other one against Senegal was a tryout, basically. Today I'm joined by Cesar Hernandez in San Diego. Cesar, how's everything?
Good. I mean, first off, I just want to say thank you to everyone out there who was patient, who was waiting. I mean, I would put the blame on us. Maybe I'd put more of the blame on Naive, actually. Naive, you're the troublemaker here for making this late. I'm just messing with you, but yeah, I'm glad we got the show started. Like I told Naive, I mean, it's I'm excited to talk about this. I have a it's fun to look at the roster. It's fun to look at the possibilities. It's fun to look at who these options are for El Tri. So I'm excited here. I've got I'm not glad it's St. Patrick's Day, so I've got maybe have a little bit of whiskey. If you're over the age of 21, please have some. If you're under, don't. It's a bad thing, and I'm not
No,
promoting that.
we're wearing green. We're wearing green.
That's right. There we go. Yeah.
So
There
look,
you go. St.
we're
Patrick's
in
Day.
we're in
Yeah.
the festivities.
Yeah.
It's interesting what's going on in the States. The March Madness going on over there with all the colleges and stuff. So
Oh, dude,
hopefully,
I don't care about that. I just chose random teams, and my bracket's already terrible, man. My bracket's terrible.
no, I mean I don't even know if I did a bracket. It's so
What?
busy right now with
Oh
the
my
with the
God, that's
football.
that's that's another podcast we should start right there.
No, but definitely, I think right now what's the main topic here in Mexico City, apart from the pollution that it's sort of
Yeah.
taking over the whole city, the free transportation, and everything. But the topic right now is the list, and I think Cesar, looking at the goalkeepers,
Yeah.
the first three, Talavera, we know how much Juan Carlos Osorio sort of likes the goalkeeper from Toluca. We got Corona there, and then we also have Picolín Palacios, who I think
Yeah.
is the surprise, in a certain way.
I mean, is he really a surprise at this point though? Is Picolín? I mean, I know he's kind of a joke. You think of Picolín and you can't help but think of like almost like a caricature of just like someone who's like flopping around and just like because he is Picolín, but it doesn't really surprise me that much that he's on the roster. And I think even if Ochoa did make the roster, would he really be the starting one? Would he really be the starting option? Like if whether it was Picolín or whether it was Ochoa, would you rather? I mean, I'm asking you now. Now I'm asking you this, taking back some of these hosting responsibilities. Do you think that if it was Picolín or Ochoa, would either of those start over Talavera right now?
No, no, no. I think, I mean, I said it, I think 2 weeks ago. Right now, the number one is Talavera.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, in the list that in the November games against El Salvador and Honduras, uh,
Yeah.
was it November or was it October? It was one of those
I don't
two
remember
months.
exactly.
I think it was November. I think it was November.
Yeah.
But Ochoa came and he was basically, not going to be used, in a certain
Yeah.
way. So now that he's playing, it does surprise a little bit. Of course, it's only 1 week, but the playing time is there. I
Yeah.
think he has some confidence. But looking at from another perspective, the fact that he already called up Picolín once, and I think you're the one that has noted a lot, Cesar. The goalkeeping coach has gone to
Yeah.
a lot of
Marin.
Pumas
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, Marin, he's always there. He's always there. To be
Yeah,
fair, I mean, it seems like Juan Carlos Osorio and his crew are at every match. I mean, you can't. It used to be kind of like to me, it was kind of exciting when you'd be like, oh, blah 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 is a blah 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 game, but no. But it seems like, I mean, it could just be them just being more active on social media. It could just be them actually pointing that out. But it seems like there are Juan Carlos Osorio and his team are actually going to more matches, and it could have just been two, just because there was a game coming up as well. But anyway,
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
it is.
But going back to Picolín, I do believe that Picolín was one of the best goalkeepers in the 2015 Apertura, and was one of the main reasons why Pumas made it all the way to the final.
Yeah.
So looking at it from that side, you do understand the call up.
Mhm.
But I do think that come the Centenario, if Ochoa keeps playing, I think he will be one of the goalkeepers. I
Yeah.
don't know if he will be the starter, because I still believe that Talavera does have an advantage there over Memo Ochoa, because Talavera has been playing for, consistently. Ochoa is barely starting to play a consistent basis after 2 years. You know,
I mean,
so I think
the thing about Ochoa too is that, I mean, he has a very short window. From what I've seen, Kameni is supposed to be out for 6 weeks. From what I saw, I mean, it could be different. He could like recuperate much quickly than I assume. But so essentially, like Ochoa doesn't have that much time to really prove himself. And let's say Kameni jumps in, let's say as early as late next month, or even early. Let's say, I mean, that would be it would be early May, and Ochoa goes back to the bench. Then what? It's just, do we start all over? Do we really even consider him at this point? So, and I think it's an interesting case with Ochoa, who might actually be sent back to the bench within a matter of a month, maybe 4 to 5 weeks.
yeah, yeah, it's a good point you bring up there,
Mm.
Cesar. I mean, and I think that's why we see Palacios in the call-up, because there's not a complete certainty that this playing time will continue with Ochoa.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, I do believe that the issue in the goalkeeping position is not of concern at the moment, even though that there's because I read some tweets about the age. All of the three goalkeepers that Osorio calls up are over 30,
Yeah.
but the goalkeeping position is one that permits you to have that. Experience matters. Now, when it comes to center backs and defenders, the name of Rafa
Yeah.
Marquez stands out in the list.
Yeah. I mean,
And he's already, but what do you think about that one, Cesar?
I mean, he's a backup to me. I mean, I think it would be very surprising if Moreno or Reyes weren't there starting in the middle for Mexico. I think if Reyes was to be replaced by Rafa, I would be very surprised. I would be very surprised by Juan Carlos Osorio, who has obviously been watching a lot of games this season. I mean, as I mentioned, his crew, they've been watching a lot of these matches. And I don't think there's anything from Rafa's season that really justifies a spot in the starting lineup. In the roster, I think you could maybe make an argument, maybe for his experience, maybe his leadership from the locker room, perhaps. But I mean, it's a talking point, but I don't know if it's really that big of a deal as long as he doesn't start. I don't know. I don't know how you feel.
I think Rafa could be worse for one game. And I think it could happen in Mexico City in the second game against Canada, depending on the result in Vancouver, of course. If it's a negative result in Vancouver, I do see some issues there. But like you said, I mean, for example, Hugo Ayala is not in the call-up, and I don't know if that has to do because he's coming off an injury, but I saw him this week in Querétaro, and he did excellent there with Juninho. I don't know if Tuca and Osorio have this good relationship that Tuca can be like, hey, man, my players have been playing over 70 games in the last year. Can you give them a rest or something? But we do see Aquino in the call-up, for example. But it's those permissions that, or those relationships or those ties that Osorio is making in Mexican football. I think if there's a coach that Osorio really admires and there's a good communication with, is with Tuca Ferretti. Now, back to the point about Rafa Marquez. I mean, he's still part of the team as long as he's playing in a certain way. I don't know. I think until he says game is over, retiring, he'll still appear in these call-ups. But like the worry right now is that I do see some sort of there's not that many options in the center back position, because right now you said Reyes and Moreno.
Yeah.
Araujo is still getting his first.
No, that is the problem. There's there's Araujo, and then what? The backup to Moreno is Yasser Corona. It's Yasser, and like I think Yasser, I would put him. I mean, we're going to talk about strikers later. I would put him on the same level of someone like Lalo Herrera, where they get call-ups, but I just don't know if they're national team material. I think Yasser did have some good form last year. I think he did very well. He was even scoring actually for Querétaro. Whether he's national team material, that's a different conversation. I'm still not too worried because this is all. I think something we also have to keep in mind and is that this is all before the Copa America. We're playing against Canada. 2 matches against Canada. Even if we had Yasser Corona and if we had Rafa Marquez starting defense, I feel like defensively, that's not where Mexico is going to have their problems. I think we're going to want them to be, have some exciting options in the attack. I think the defense isn't the problem, but I mean, kind of changing things a little bit with you. I mean, just do we really think that there? I mean, I'm looking at. I was creating an ideal lineup. Do we really think there's anything other than Moreno, Reyes, Aguilar, and Layun? I mean, that's from what we've seen in this roster. That's got to be what we're playing with, right? There's no other. There's no other like different system we're going to use, right? Or do you think that some other player could step up and potentially step like play in one of those positions?
No, when you say those names, I think those are the four defenders. I
Yeah,
think maybe if Torres Nilo was present,
yeah,
they could have changed it a little bit, but because he's left-footed and blah 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 and all that with Layun and Aguilar on the right. But those looking at from there, I mean, I think those are the starters practically, the ones that
hmm
you said with
yeah.
with Moreno, Reyes, Aguilar, and Layun.
I mean,
Uh,
I've mentioned this on Twitter. They're the really. I mean, some people were making some arguments, but I don't see any true backups. I mean, you could say this player could play as a right back or left back, but I don't see like a true backup to Layun or Aguilar as a left back or right back. Do you from this roster?
no, from this roster, no. You can say maybe Pizarro could move to the right, or just in case for experimenting or whatnot. But looking at it from here is it's also, how can I explain? This is a year when I think Osorio can still sort of experiment.
Yeah.
Because I think next year the Confederations Cup is coming on, and then of course the other year is the World Cup.
Mhm.
So he has an opportunity right now to still experiment, because this session or this group stage of the of the World Cup qualifiers is the easy part. The
Mhm.
hard part is the hexagonal, and I think
Yeah.
by the hexagonal he should already have a solid starting 11, to say
Yeah.
the least.
Mhm.
With also with the defenders, I think what complicates it a little bit is the fact that there's two processes going on at the same time, which is
Yeah.
the U23s and El Tri Mayor. So that I think, for example, Salcedo could have been in this call-up had the issue with
I don't know if I would have started him though.
no, a starter, but
Yeah.
better than Yasser, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think
Okay. Okay.
I think Yasser is a surprising call-up because he hasn't even been playing the important games.
Mhm.
For example, this week against Tigres, he wasn't one of the starters,
Mhm.
and that tells you a little bit of how bad of a season Yasser is having. He's not having the best of seasons. But moving on to the midfield, which I think
Yeah.
it's where where
That's what
he
interests
has.
me. That's what interests me right there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of a high quality one and a young one, which I
Mhm.
think it's important to note here. This generational shift that Osorio is trying to promote in a way,
Yeah.
bringing in Orbelin, bringing in Rodolfo Pizarro, even Brizuela, bringing in Brizuela after
Mhm.
several good streak of games over there in Chivas. And we'll see about the defensive midfield role, the center one. Will it
Yeah.
be Guardado playing there, or will it be Achache, Cesar?
I mean, that's the thing is like you look at that role as a defensive midfielder, assuming that JCL still continues to use that 4-3-3 with a one defensive mid and two attacking midfielders, and you look at the options, and Guardado sticks out. Guardado sticks out. Gaito is in this roster. Jonathan Dos Santos is in this roster. It has to be Guardado, and it'd be foolish for JCO not to recognize the form that Guardado has been in with PSV and what he's done for that team. I mean, we saw it with in the Champions League recently. Him and Moreno did very well. I mean, they lost the match, but I think any person who watched that game recognized the quality that those players had at that position. I mean, you could say someone like Jesus Molina, but I mean,
He's the natural one, the one that plays that
yeah,
position every week, basically.
yeah. I mean, you could say that, but it's got to be Guardado. And there's so much. There's what I like about this midfield, and I mentioned this on Twitter. Just like the defense is easy, but just the midfield, there are so many different possibilities, and I like that. I like the fact that I can't figure out my perfect midfield. I like the fact that there are so many different options there, and at least for me, I would say the two guarantees. I would say if there are two guarantees that Juan Carlos Osorio has to do, it has to be Guardado and Herrera. Wherever they be, those two need to be there. And assuming this is a 4-3-3, the big question is who is that third player in that midfield? And I don't know what you if what do you think? I mean, who would you agree that Guardado and Herrera need to be their guarantees in that midfield right now?
No, when looking at a 4-3-3, Guardado and Nachacha are starters for sure, definite. It's the idea of what he wants to do. Let's keep in mind the Cesar also. Rafa Marquez can play as the sole defensive midfielder.
And Reyes as well. Someone was asking about that. I mean, like Reyes can also play that position.
So I mean, it all depends on the readings that Osorio does about Canada. I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's analyzed the team over and over again. But how does he want to play? Does he want to go with the 4-3-3? Does he want to go with the 4-4-2? Because there's a lot of wingers in this column. There's Aquino, there's Chucky, there's Tecatito, there's Brizuela, like I said. Orbelin can play in the wing. Marco Fabian can play in the wing. So it does make you think. It does make you think and say, well, is he thinking of a 4-4-2 with Chicharito and Raul Jimenez up top, especially in the Vancouver game, where I think it will be more important to be solid, in each block. And I think if you have Chicharito and Raul Jimenez in the starting 11, you got a good defensive unit when it comes to set pieces, which is Mexico's biggest, fault in most of the games. Is
250 years.
Exactly. And all of its history, even when the Aztecas were around, that was the biggest, having height and the set pieces and everything. But I think, we will see how he's gonna do this. But I would really enjoy seeing Guardado, Pizarro, and Herrera, for example.
Guardado, Pizarro,
4-3-3.
And would you put Guardado as defensive mid?
Yeah. That would be the case.
With me, I would put. I mean, so it seems like we agree with Guardado as defensive mid, and Herrera as one of the other attacking mids. But I like the idea of Orbelin as one of the other attacking mids. I think he's done very well at Chivas. I think that'd be kind of fun. See, Guardado as a defensive mid and Orbelin and Herrera as those two attacking mids moving forward. I think that would be interesting for El Tri. But that's, as I mentioned, that's the big question for me: is who is that third player? Who is that third midfielder if there is a 4-3-3?
Yeah, and then of course I think if it's like a 4-4-2, I think it's Guardado and Herrera in the center maybe.
Yeah, that's it.
It could be Guardado Molina, because of the defensive qualities that Molina could provide, and that would allow Guardado to move more forward. But Orbelin, the thing, I like how Orbelin is doing. But Orbelin didn't show up for that call-up against Senegal, because Chivas didn't allow its players. And I think it would have been really important because at least Osorio would have already have an idea of Orbelin as a player. And now with these games, the 2 games against Canada, you can't go right away and put Orbelin. I think he'll be leaning more towards the players that he already saw.
No, that's a good point. That's an excellent point.
Pizarro, Chucky Lozano, Molina. He already saw those players in Miami, so they have a high shot of being in the 11 in the game in Vancouver, I think.
No, that's an excellent point as well. I mean, because one of my other options, was Fabian as an attacking mid. But then again, I don't know if I still have enough trust. And you did mention Juan Carlos Osorio may not have enough trust in Fabian as well, who hasn't played with the national team recently. He hasn't really gotten us that excited about his European career either. I know people have made the arguments that he's been probably one of the more crucial players of Eintracht Frankfurt. That he's been excellent as the center attacking mid in that squad. But at the same time, that club is also struggling as well. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what Osorio does. It seems like Osorio he surprises us. And he didn't really surprise us that much with this roster, but perhaps we will see a 4-4-2. It seems like we're all assuming it's going to be a 4-3-3, but no, we'll see.
Yeah. Right now it's interesting what you said, Cesar, about not surprises. In Mexico, there's this commotion because Vela and Giovanni are not in the list.
I guess that's true. I overlooked that. Yeah, I overlooked that.
But look, I totally agree with that thought. I think that we shouldn't make a big fuss about this, about the fact that that Giovanni and Vela are not in this call-up. Yeah. You can tell me a million things that Giovanni and Vela have great talents, great skills. I will not disagree with you if you tell me that. the thing is that right now Giovanni is injured basically. He's struggling at the
I mean, yeah, I
Galaxy.
mean, Bruce Arena recently said that he may not even start this weekend for the Galaxy.
Exactly. And right now, Carlos Vela has the Geo syndrome. And what is the Geo syndrome? The Geo syndrome is that you're playing your last season in Spain. You really don't give pretty much anything about it. You're having a really, really una temporada pésima, a bad season over there in Spain. And you don't, it's 4 goals, right, Cesar? I think 4 or 5 goals in the season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, but Vela, he did well in early, like I want to say January, but since then he's kind of gone a little bit down. And I guess and I wrote about this with Vela. I mean, at least recently, it's beautiful moments just intertwined and just mixed amongst just really boring, dull, quiet matches. And I think that's you don't know what to expect from Vela nowadays. You don't know. I mean, that could be a deeper conversation in itself too, because I mean, we've talked about this multiple times, but you don't even, at this point in his career, when he's going to like Chris Brown concerts and just not showing up to practice, maybe he's pushing his Real Sociedad responsibilities behind him. Maybe he's eyeing MLS. He's seeing what Gio's doing and thinking that might be a little bit of fun for him.
Yeah. I mean, I think also look. I think one of the issues with the Mexican team at the moment it is the striker position. I think we're depending too much on Chicharito. And then I think Raul Jimenez has to step up. I mean, Raul Jimenez, definitely. Those are the 2 strikers that El Tri has at the moment, the 2 main ones. Because I know Lalo Herrera is an option and he's on this list, but Lalo Herrera doesn't have the skills that Chicharito and Raul Jimenez have. There's a big difference between having Raul Jimenez or Chicharito in the 11 and having Eduardo Herrera. Now, it's only 3 natural strikers. Everything else is just wingers. Tecatito, Chucky, Aquino, Fabian, Orbelin. So what does that make you think? It makes you think that this team really depends on one sole striker, and that striker right now is Chicharito Hernandez.
No, I definitely agree. And I mean, when you look past Chicharito, I mean, even Jimenez, I mean, he's not getting that much playing time with Benfica. He was getting he had a couple of goals in like late 2015. He started gaining a little bit more momentum and goals, but recently he hasn't been a key player for them at all whatsoever with Benfica. I mean, I made a comment recently on Twitter about just Raul Jimenez. He's the only Mexican left in the Champions League. And someone, I forgot who it was, responded to me. They told me, it's like, oh, so we basically have no Mexicans in the Champions League. And like, I know he was joking, but that's entirely true. He's not going to be playing in the Champions League. If he does, it's going to be very little minutes. And right now, he's not vital to that squad. So you do look at these players past Chicharito, and as I've mentioned before, and I've mentioned this on Twitter, just Lalo Herrera, why didn't we have Peralta instead in that position? He's not national team material, and I know he did very well last year, but he's just not national team material at all whatsoever. For me, he's not having the best season either with Pumas. He's been struggling up top.
No, definitely. No, but this is one of the things. This is Osorio's playing with his ideas, because the point that you bring up is really important. Peralta's having a great season, and I think Peralta could have given something to this team, another striker asset type of player, because like I said, it's just Chicharito. I am putting Raul Jimenez, but the only reason I'm putting Raul Jimenez is because with the limited minutes he's had in Benfica, he showed some glimpses.
He's a hardworking player. He's definitely a hardworking player.
Yeah. And I think I see a lot of speed here. Osorio's gonna try to break the work with speed through the wings mainly, and try to in a certain way beat the slow defenders from Canada. Because Canada defenders, I don't know that much, but when I saw them in the Gold Cup, they were pretty slow in the back. So what's going to happen? Tecatito's going to break in, Chucky Lozano, Aquino.
I mean, those two...
definitely,
Those two for me, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'm excited about the wingers we have. And I would love it. I would completely love it in that 4-3-3 if we had Chucky and Tecatito just ripping apart that defense. And we know that it could easily rip apart that Canadian defense. Who, if we're being honest here, like other than a few players, like how how many true like world class players can we say about who are on the Canadian national team? And I know that's a little bit harsh. I know that's harsh to say, but I don't think most fans. I don't think I mean, we who follow the sport could really name any players from that Canadian defense. And we look at someone like Lozano, who is on the up, who's having a great season, who's seems destined to move to Europe. And you know, it's a fact that teams in Europe are watching him. And Tecatito, I mean, I know he has been with the best with Porto, but I think he just needs a little bit of a break. But those two are my starting wingers right there for the national team.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the Chucky on the right, Tecatito on the left, and then maybe Chicharito. That could be on a 4-3-3. But then again, we'll have to see exactly what Osorio has in mind. You know, if it's going to be, like I said a while ago, 4-4-2 is also a possibility. You know, and that will be key to see. I mean, I think looking at the list, I'm really happy to see young players getting a shot. You know, because for example, Orbelin, you know, it's impressive. Orbelin is getting senior national team call up before a U23 call up.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it says a lot about how he's been doing in Chivas, but also looking back at what he did in Querétaro. You know, I think, I mean, I think about it. In 2015 up to now, he's been consistent. I mean, there was a brief moment last season in Querétaro in the 2015 Apertura where he went a little bit down, but it was because the defenders knew about him, so they were giving him a good marking there. Cesar, go.
He's done an excellent job with Chivas. With, you know, you've seen so many players show up there. He could have easily been one of those big name players who shows up and just falls under the pressure, falls under the stigma, which happens to those big names that show up to Chivas and just underwhelm. Like Carlos Peña is the perfect example. But he seems unfazed by it. He's doing well. He has the confidence of a player who is at least 10 to 15 years older than his actual age. I think he's only 19 years old, and it's exciting to watch him play. And it's exciting to see him do extremely well against, you know, players who have much more experience in this league and under that pressure as well in Guadalajara.
Yeah, and then I call him the mini Achache, and the reason I call him mini Achache because when I talked to him in Querétaro last year, he told me that he watches most of Porto's games, and he always watches how Achache plays. So he tries to pick up details and integrate them to his game. And what I've seen with Guadalajara, he's integrate them, because I think in Guadalajara he has to do a little bit more. He has to move to the back and play defense sometimes, and he does well. I think where Orbelin has to improve a little bit more is to in the distribution of the pass. Sometimes it's erratic, but overall I think he admires Achache, and that's why I call him mini Achache, because it's basically the same type of player there. But about to end this Express, Cesar, what are your thoughts? Do you think we're gonna see a Chucky, Pizarro, or Orbelin in the Copa Centenario?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, just especially since a lot of those young players, I mean, it seems like they either have to be involved with the Olympics or the Copa America. You never know. Maybe some of them will be involved with the Olympics as well in both competitions. I think if I had to choose one player who would be involved with the national team, I think it'd be Lozano. I think Lozano, he proved in the last friendly that he is not only an excellent option, but in that match, he showed that he was basically one of the best Mexican players in that game against Senegal. And he played with an immense amount of confidence. I think I would like to see Lozano. I think if there is one player from that bunch, I would choose Lozano to be in the national team. But then again, he could rock the Olympics as well. He could probably see the Olympics as a huge opportunity to get more recognition for his name as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's really interesting to see the next events with these two teams, the U23 and El Tri Mayor, because based on what I see, this is my impression. El Tri Mayor needs Chicharito. That's what I think. El Tri Olímpico needs Chucky Lozano. When you take Chucky Lozano off that U23 team, the goals sort of disappear. You know, I think Cubo Torres He's still not started a game in MLS. He's struggling there.
He hasn't played a single minute. He hasn't played a single.
Marco Bueno doesn't play in León. Carlos Fierro doesn't play in Querétaro. It's an interesting call-up with Potro Gutierrez because he's sort of leaning with the generation that won the 2011 U17 World Cup. But the problem is that most of those players don't play. They don't play in first division. So it's a big risk there that he's taking. A lot of decisions there with which players are going where and which are going to another one. It will be interesting to follow what happens with Carlos Vela and Giovanni Dos Santos as well, if they will still, be part of the national team that will play in the Copa Centenario. Any closing remarks, Cesar, that you might have about all these topics?
No, I mean, I feel we're getting in depth into this conversation. We're getting in depth into the positions. I think we really shouldn't have that many worries against Canada. I mean, I interviewed and I'll be posting an article next week about the interview I had with the team captain from Canada, Julien de Guzman, and he told me that for a lot of these players on this Canadian national team, playing against Mexico at this point, it's going to be, I wrote the quote, I was like, the most important match in their international careers. And I think that says not a lot. It says a lot, not only just about that match, but just going up against Mexico, who they're you look at the roster from the national team, you look at the roster from Canada, it's night and day. It's not something that we should really be worried about that much. And maybe we're just we're looking ahead to the Copa America as the bigger competition. But yeah, I know. I think we'll be fine. As I mentioned, we'll play Yasser Corona, start Candido Ramirez, start Molina. I think there's no reason why we shouldn't be getting 6 points. And I'm saying this, there's no reason why not 4 points, 6 points this month.
Well, that's we'll see if those players end up having minutes. Candido, we didn't even talk about Candido during the show. And Candido was a big, I think he won his call-up in Miami, actually.
Yeah, no, he did.
Because, he totally impressed. And then what was interesting with Candido is that after that call-up, he's been having more minutes with Rayados.
Yeah, he's not a starter though with Rayados. He's more of a substitute player, but he is getting minutes. He's getting minutes though.
He is getting minutes, and it's tough to be a starting at Rayados. With Pavón, Cardona, and Funes Mori, those are the three starters basically.
Yeah. Oh no, most definitely. I mean, with that Rayados squad, they're the team that I play with on FIFA, and I've been having some success with them on FIFA. So, really quickly though, on Candido, it's also. I talked about how. Lyon has no backup. There is the option for Candido, who had some minutes this season, is almost kind of like a left back for Monterrey. He's all over that left wing for them. He plays a left midfielder, kind of like a winger, but he's also kind of played a little bit more as a defender as well. But I think, it seems like if he were to be getting minutes, it would be as a left winger, a left midfielder in the squad.
Yeah, interesting. We'll have to see. We'll have more shows coming up next week.
Yeah.
Tom Marshall will be on site. He's heading to Canada, and then hopefully we'll have him from over there. We'll see. Hopefully he'll be back next week hosting. This week with Cesar and I, the host. I really enjoy always chatting with you, Cesar, about the game.
Likewise.
Yeah. And then, of course, to the audience that stayed up late and watched us, really appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoyed the show, and hopefully we can bring you more quality shows like this one. So desde Ciudad de México and San Diego. Buenas noches. Hasta luego.
Buenas noches. Adiós.
Take care.